Chapter 2, Will Planning. Excerpt commentary on Chapter 2 on the book Do Not Ignore Your Mortality. Practical advice from a funeral and financial insider. Greg Barnsdale, Certified Executor Advisor. Anyway, so I'll just finish reading Chapter 2 regarding will planning. So some of the highlights in here. Having a valid will is the only way of stipulating who you want to wrap up your life. Susie Orman, she's a personal financial expert and author. She quoted, "Estate planning is as important and everlasting gift you can give your family, and setting up a smooth inheritance isn't as hard as you might think." So he stressed the importance of communication in Chapter 1. So expressing your thoughts, objectives, and concerns to the appropriate people is fundamental. Making sure your objectives are appropriately recorded is a crucial next step. If your final wishes are not properly documented, they will not be carried out. That's plain and simple. If something is worth doing, it is worth doing right. It's important that you indicate precisely who you want as your executor. That's very vital. And if you don't, the government rules will take over. And deciding who will be in charge of the executors is often a stumbling block for many people. And so you're better off not to worry about getting the perfect executor and get it done. Select somebody. There's all kinds of resources that can help you decide who the executor is going to be and to make their job easier. The next thing you want to look at is look after your property. It's a complete lack of control on your part if you don't have a valid will. And remember, you had your chance to make a will. If you don't, government intestacy rules can seem cold and unfair, but they are the only alternative for die-hard procrastinations. And as he said, pardon the pun. So don't procrastinate. There's a list of things that can happen if you die intestate, meaning without a will. I'm going to read these here because I think they're quite appropriate here. So stepchildren, and in some jurisdictions, unmarried partners may receive nothing. Imagine being married, or not married, or common law, and your spouse, common law spouse, owns a property, and you're not on the deed. Without a will, and not being married, there's a good chance you will not receive that asset in death. A lot of people don't realize that. So having a will works around that. So I just added that little bit to it. So next part. Additional administrative responsibilities will be forced onto those you love. There's a lot more court work that will be required. Arguments within your family are very much more likely to occur. Costly legal action may be required to work out problems. The ordeal can be drawn out over a much longer period of time, perhaps many years, more than necessary. Their grieving process could become more complicated. Stress levels forced onto those you love will be higher. Your legacy may become bitter and disappointing. And of course, you'll be dead. And as he says, trust me, it's better to die with a will. If you have young children, that's also important. You probably have strong feelings about who you would or would not want to raise your children if you died. So just imagine the monumental decisions being made by somebody else, perhaps a government employee, if you died and now someone who knows nothing about your family or personal values is in control of making such a monumental decision. Well, it can and does happen. So very important to have guardians for our children. And you can't always assume that just your wife is going to be taken over or your husband. Often tragedies impact both parties. Okay? And that's a very serious problem. Also, young people can get access to a whole estate, maybe at a very young age, once they turn 18. And there's many risks of a young adult coming into such large sums of money. They do not have life experience to appreciate the value of a sizable amount or how to manage it prudently. and sometimes they're vulnerable, which can lead to all sorts of problems. So think about that. A complete disaster could result if you do not have your affairs in proper order, and you will not be alive to turn it around. It will simply be too late. Do not think of the cost of preparing as anything but a wise investment in your family. When meeting with a lawyer to establish your will, the process usually involves 2 or possibly 3 meetings, and the lawyer obtains details required to ensure your final wishes are documented accurately and thoroughly. And the following are some types of questions a lawyer typically asks. There's a whole list here. I strongly recommend you buy the book and or get a list from various resources that might be available. Draft wills are drafted for review, any adjustments required, and then your third meeting might be to sign things off. Now, it is also best have your will kept at your lawyer's office, a safe place, and let people know where it is, specifically your executor. He should have a copy, or she should have a copy. Discuss your wishes in advance with your executor, and that will also provide them with the assurance that they need to fulfill the role. Being an executor can be complex and demanding, and it is certainly not for everyone. And do not think that surprisingly someone and secretly naming them as your executor is a good idea. It is not. Secrecy regarding this planning tends to result in negativity and poor results. You also should be looking at having a power of attorney, documents, or personal directives in place. This document allows you to appoint an alternate decision maker, fiduciary, if you become incapacitated and unable to make decisions about your health care or your finances. A will cannot include what you want to happen in every possible future situation, but it should cover the most common scenarios. It should also provide the flexibility and control you feel is appropriate for those you are entrusting as your executor. This is another reason why proper legal guidance is very important. The more information you can prepare in advance of your meeting with your lawyer, the better. This makes it easier for your lawyer and should reduce the time involved and the resulting fee. Highly recommend that you print off a well-detailed questionnaire, complete it as best you can, and use it in conjunction with your planning. Shortly after death, the immediate family often becomes focused on finding the deceased will, so all too often survivors do not know if there was a will established or where to find it, so this alone can create a substantial amount of unnecessary stress and frustration. So communication here is key. Practical solution: openly discuss your final wishes with those you care about before you pass away. Your loved ones will then know what you want to happen, and they will not be forced to guess about anything. When you die, your original will must be accepted in a court of law before your belongings, your assets can be distributed. The process is formally known as probating a will. The person you have named in your will as your executor is the person to look after this. You can choose to have more than one executor is preferred, because if your first choice is unwilling or unable to fulfill the role at the time of death, the other can step in. It makes sense to include a second choice, also known as an alternate executor. Choosing people who are younger than yourself is also advisable. When making a will, you need 2 witnesses, unless it's a holograph will, which can be fraught with problems. So a will must have 2 witnesses, and you must sign the will in front of them. That way the court has good reason to believe the will is real. Another reason for the formal process is to alert the testator of the document's importance. It is extremely serious. The testator must be mentally capable and have a good sense of the assets they own. Knowing the exact value of everything is not necessary. So the testator is the person making the will. There's a story in the book about a Saskatchewan farmer. I actually remember hearing about this story at a seminar I hosted many years ago. I remember our lawyer Harry Preston speaking about this. I'll have to make a copy of this and get this to his attention. I'm thinking get a charge out of that. Okay, number of different information in the chapter. One of the things that I'm going to focus on now at the end is the bottom line. So, number 1, discuss your final wishes with your executor and give them a copy of your will. Online will-making services can be effective if they include legal guidance, but they are not for all situations. If you feel pressure to complete or update your will, it may not be valid. There's a long list of potential problems if you die without a will, and basic fill-in-the-blank will kits, which provide no legal guidance, should be avoided. So, that's the end of Chapter 2. We'll talk to you later. Cheers.